So volume of multiple objects is the volume of a compound shape. So a compound shape is just when you combine two or more shapes together into one. So we're going to need to use and know all our volume formulas. So remember, the volume is the amount of space inside an object. The general formula for volume is big B times H, where big B is area of the base, okay? So right now I want you to take a minute and finish filling in the first side of page 1. Make sure you can draw the picture and you know what the volume is, and then come back and check your work. So remember, for volume of a pyramid, you could have a rectangular pyramid, a square pyramid, or a triangular pyramid. So that's your rectangle, square, and that's your triangle. Okay, so let's try 3 examples. So determine the volume of this L-shaped prism. Well, first thing I would do is let's cut this into 2 different prisms. So I'm going to cut it so I have it cut right here. So it cuts it this way, so I have a big rectangular prism and a smaller one. So now I have to figure out what the length, width, and height is for each prism. So I'm going to focus on this one first. So this front one, here. So to figure out the length, so I'm looking at this side here. Well, 11's at whole length, but if I look, I see 4 inches. So the length is 4 inches. The width, remember, is this diagonal line here. So that's the width. And then your height goes straight up and down. So if I wanted to find the volume of this red object, since it's a rectangular prism, it would be length times width times height. I plug in my numbers, 4 times 14 times 6, and I get 336. Now I know I'm going to have to add that to the other volume, which is also rectangular prism, so I can say length times width times height again. So now let's look at this one. So we have to figure out what the length, width, and height is. So if this side's the length, well, this whole thing is 11. 11 minus 4 would give me 7 inches. And I see it right up here too. So that's how I know I'm right. Now the width would be this line here. This line here is 14 inches, and I know that from down here, this width. Lastly, the height. So the height is this part, or this part, and I see that it's also 6 inches. So that's my height. Here's my width. Here's my length. So it's going to be 7 times 14 times 6. And when I do that, I get 7, or 1176. So now what I have to do is I have to add together 336 plus 1176. And then my total volume would be 1512 inches cubed. So all we're doing in these compound shapes is we're cutting it up and then solving for the length of each separate shape and then adding them together. So let's try another one. This is a semi-cylinder and a rectangular prism. So if I'm looking at the rectangular prism's volume formula is length times width times height. So let's take a look at the prism. Well, here's the length is 9, the width is 42, and the height is 35. So 9 times 2, or 9 times 42 times 35. And that volume is going to be 13230 centimeters cubed. So now I have to look at this top part here. So this top part is my semi-cylinder. Now, we know the formula for a whole cylinder. What we're going to do is we're going to take half of that then. So your volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times h. So half a cylinder, we're going to divide it by 2. So we need to figure out what R and H is. So R is from the center point outwards. So if I look, I know that the whole diameter is 9, so my radius would be 4.5. Now, this is your height of your cylinder. So the height of the cylinder connects your circle bases together. So this line is actually 42. So 42 is your height. So it's going to be pi times 4.5 squared times 42 divided by 2. And you can just put that all in your calculator because it wants us to round to the nearest cubic centimeter. So we are not going to leave it in terms of pi. So when you do that, you're going to get this number. So lastly, we have to add this volume and this volume together. And when we do that, we get 14565.96228. But it says round to the nearest cubic centimeter, so it's going to be 14566 cubic centimeters. So again, you're splitting your shapes up and then adding the volumes together. So let's try one more together. So here I have two rectangular prisms. So I'm going to cut it this way. So we're going to focus on this object first. So I have to figure out length times width times height because it is a rectangular cylinder or a rectangular prism. So the length and the width are these two. If I look, I see 6 centimeters, so I know this is also 6 centimeters. And then to figure out this, well, I know my whole length is 20, and then from this end point all the way to here is 15. So 20 minus 15 would give me 5 centimeters. So I would do 5 times 6 times 15, or 5 times 6 times 11. So my first volume is length times width times height, and this is the volume of my red shape. So 5 times 6 times 11, and I get 330 centimeters cubed. So that's for my red shape. So now I go over here. Well, I know from here to here is 15 centimeters. It gives me a height of 4 and a width of 6. So 15 times 6 times 4 is my other volume. Same formula, 15 times 6 times 4, and that's a volume of 360 centimeters cubed. So now what I do is I add these two volumes together, and my volume of this whole shape is 690 centimeters cubed. So you have to know your volume of different objects, and then you have to remember to add them together at the end. So the rest of this is your homework, and then you can submit.